Welcome to NFL Nexus, your home for the deepest of deep dives. Today, we are tearing into the Carolina Panthers 2026 draft. And let me tell you, after years of rebuilding, this is a moment for the franchise. The pressure is absolutely on General Manager Dan Morgan to finally build a consistent winner around quarterback Bryce Young. But here's the thing. With needs all over the field and a pretty controversial philosophy guiding their every move, which way are they going to go? We're going to unpack everything, the expert reports, the mock drafts, all the inside info, to give you the ultimate guide to the best fits, the potential steals, and the one strategy that has everybody in the league talking. So stick around, and hey, if you love breakdowns like this, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. You are not going to want to miss what we have coming up.
All right, let's just jump right into it and talk about the elephant in the war room. So in 2024, the Panthers grabbed wideout Xavier Legette in the first round. Okay. Then in 2025, they went and did it again, shocking some folks by taking Teddy-Roa McMillan, who then just exploded and won Offensive Rookie of the Year. So now you got to ask the question that on the surface just sounds nuts. Could they really, truly spend a third straight first-round pick on a wide receiver? I mean, in today's NFL, that's almost unheard of. It completely goes against conventional wisdom, which tells you to spread those premium picks around. But the chatter is real, and you know what? The front office is doing absolutely nothing to quiet it down.
And here it is, folks, straight from the top. When GM Dan Morgan was asked about this very thing, he laid it all out. This is the classic best player available strategy, or BPA. The thinking behind it is that you never, ever reach to fill a position of need with a guy you have graded lower. No, you just take the best football player on your board, period. You accumulate as much top-tier talent as you possibly can, and then you figure out how all the puzzle pieces fit later. Now, it's a super high-risk, high-reward approach. When it works, man, you can build a roster that is just stacked with blue-chip talent. But when it fails, it can leave these massive, season-killing holes wide open. This one quote right here, it opens the door for total chaos on draft night, and it tells us that for Carolina, anything, and I mean anything, is on the table.
Okay, so keeping that best player available mindset, let's get into the high-impact early picks, rounds 1, 2, and 3. This is where the core of a Super Bowl team gets built. We're not talking about depth pieces here. We're talking about guys who are expected to be day-one starters, future Pro Bowlers, and the leaders of your team for the next 5 years. We're going to break down exactly who the experts have circled for Carolina in these absolutely crucial first 3 rounds.
So if Carolina actually does it, if they stick to that BPA mantra and a receiver is sitting right at the top of their board, who makes the most sense? Well, the consensus among analysts isn't just go get any receiver. You see, with the 6'5" Teddy-Roa McMillan already on the roster, locking down that role as the big-bodied jump ball specialist, the guy you just throw it up to in the red zone, the team has a very specific complementary need. They need a different kind of weapon. They need a dynamic, explosive playmaker who can create his own separation and turn a simple, short pass into a massive gain. They're looking for the lightning to McMillan's thunder.
And the name you hear over and over again is Casey Concepcion from NC State. Now, what's really important to understand is the context. Other top-tier receivers, guys like Jordan Tyson, they're probably going to be long gone by the time Carolina picks. That makes Concepcion not just a fantastic talent, but also a very realistic target. His calling card, his absolute superpower, is an unrivaled ability to get yards after the catch. Yak. Now just think about Bryce Young's game for a minute. He's incredibly accurate, and he's got one of the quickest releases in the entire league. The offense he's in is designed to thrive when he can just get the ball out of his hands quickly and into the hands of a playmaker in space, letting them do the heavy lifting. Concepcion's ability to take a little 5-yard slant and make one guy miss and turn it into a 20-yard gain, that is the exact ingredient this Panthers offense has been missing to become truly dangerous. It takes so much pressure off of Bryce to have to be perfect on every single throw.
Okay, let's play this out a bit. Let's say they get that offensive weapon they want in the first round. The mock drafts, the expert analysis, it all seems to agree on the next step. The focus immediately flips to the defensive side of the ball in round 2. The goal here is pretty clear. Find an anchor for the middle of that unit, a guy who can be the defensive signal caller, the leader, for years and years. And from what multiple reports are saying, the Panthers have one prospect in particular that they are just exceptionally high on.
And that player is Jacob Rodriguez, a seriously athletic linebacker out of Texas Tech. The dots here, they're just so easy to connect. First off, like we said, insiders report the front office absolutely loves his game tape. Second, your general manager is Dan Morgan, who just happened to be an all-pro linebacker himself for the Panthers. If anyone knows what elite talent and instincts look like at that position, it's him. Rodriguez is a true modern linebacker, a sideline-to-sideline player with the speed to cover tight ends and running backs. But what if he's gone? Well, the alternative is really interesting. Jennings Dunker, an offensive tackle with a massive frame and just raw, brute power. He's seen as a perfect draft and develop prospect. He's not going to be ready on day one, but you let him spend a year in an NFL weight room, learn from the vets, and then he could take over as your long-term starting tackle in 2027.
And now we move to the third round. You know, day 2 of the draft is where the best GMs really earn their paychecks, finding guys who, for whatever reason, have slipped through the cracks. For Carolina, this is a golden opportunity. According to some scouts, there's a player projected to be sitting there on the board who has legitimate first-round talent. We're talking about a potential draft day heist that could completely change the face of their defense.
That player is Kieran Crawford, an edge rusher who some insiders are calling the single most underrated prospect in this entire draft class. He's got that explosive first step, heavy hands, and a whole bag of pass rush moves that you just don't normally find on day 2. Grabbing a guy who can consistently get after the quarterback in the third round, man, that can elevate your entire defense overnight. But if he's not the pick, you got to look at Treydon Stukes. His value is all about his incredible versatility. In a league that's now all about spread offenses and crazy personnel packages, having a defensive back who can cover a lightning-fast slot receiver on one play and then line up against a massive tight end on the next, it's like having a chess piece that can move like a queen. It creates total matchup nightmares for the other team and gives your defensive coordinator so much flexibility.
Okay, now we're moving into the middle rounds, and this is where the draft strategy really shifts. In rounds 4 through 6, you're not just drafting, you are hunting for gems. This is where you find your key special teamers, your critical depth guys who can step up when there's an injury, and, if you get really lucky, an overlooked player who develops into a legitimate star. This is where the true foundation of a 53-man roster is built, and it's where the smartest teams in the league really separate themselves from the pack.
Even if the Panthers decide to pass on a receiver in round 1, it's still a position they're going to want to address at some point. There was a report from NFL Network's Cameron Wolfe that specified the front office is looking for one trait above all others in this draft class: pure, unadulterated, game-changing speed. And, as luck would have it, there's a prospect projected for the 4th round who is the living, breathing definition of that word. This slide just nails the target. Deion Burks from Oklahoma is an absolute jet. He's the kind of deep threat that makes opposing safeties start backpedaling the second the ball is snapped. And it doesn't even matter if he's getting the ball or not. Just the threat of his speed creates these huge open lanes underneath for guys like Royal, McMillan, and the tight ends to operate. But here's the really cool part that makes him special. Even though he's only 5'9", scouts just rave about his insane vertical leap and his aggressive nature to go up and win those jump balls downfield. Now, for Panthers fans, a 5'9" receiver with elite speed and a that's my ball mentality, does that sound familiar at all? It should. That is the blueprint of a franchise legend, Steve Smith. Finding that kind of player with that kind of fire in the 4th round would be an unbelievable value pick.
So as we move into the 5th round, the conversation shifts to a position that's often an afterthought until it suddenly becomes the single most important position on the entire team, the backup quarterback. But the analysis suggests the Panthers aren't just looking for some old veteran to come in and manage a game if needed. No, they are searching for a very specific type of young quarterback, someone who can not only develop in their system, but also offers a completely different skill set than their current starter. The key words driving this whole search are mobility, athleticism, and youth. And the strategy here is really smart. It's twofold. First, you get a young guy who can learn your system for a few years on a cheap rookie contract. But second, and this is maybe more important, you get a quarterback whose athleticism brings a totally different element to your offense. If your starter Bryce Young goes down, you don't have to try and run the same exact offense. You can ring in designed quarterback runs, rollouts, things that fit your backup's skills. Taylon Green from Arkansas is seen as a perfect example of this schematic fit. Sawyer Robertson is another name who fits that mold, and this is key. The team has already had a pre-draft meeting with him, which basically confirms that their interest in this specific type of player is very, very real. All right, let's head into the final day of the draft. In the 6th round and beyond, teams are pretty much looking for lottery tickets. You're searching for guys who might have 1 or 2 elite standout traits that are worth taking a flyer on and trying to develop. And by looking at these specific players Carolina has met with before the draft, we can get a really clear picture of the positions they're targeting for depth as they get ready to wrap up their 2026 class.
What this slide shows us is a really clear pattern in the team's long-term thinking. A guy like tight end Daquan Wright, that would be the 3rd year in a row the Panthers have used a late pick on a developmental tight end. That tells you they have a clear, long-term plan to find a diamond in the rough at that position instead of paying big bucks in free agency. In the same way, meeting with a running back like Kalen Black, even though it's not a top need, shows they're always looking to add talent and competition. And of course, you can never ever have enough big bodies in the trenches, which makes a rotational defensive lineman like Brandon Cleveland a really smart, low-risk investment for depth. These picks are all about building out the bottom of your roster with high-upside players who can make an impact on special teams right away. Okay, so we've walked through the entire draft, round by round, looking at the logical fits based on where guys are projected to go and what the team needs. But let's set all those projections aside for a minute. Let's enter the what-if zone. If you could just hand-pick the perfect draft class for the Carolina Panthers, and you rank them not by round, but by pure, unadulterated impact on the team from day one, what would that actually look like? Well, one expert did exactly that. They put together this comprehensive list of 25 prospects who are either strong scheme fits for what the Panthers do or have been directly linked to the team through meetings and visits. And then they just threw the entire draft order and all the projections right out the window and created an ultimate big board. They ranked these players from top to bottom based on one simple, powerful question. Which one of these guys would make the biggest immediate difference for the Carolina Panthers?
This ranking right here gives us a fantastic snapshot of the team's true underlying priorities. And it's no surprise KC Concepcion is number one. That offensive firepower is seen as the biggest possible game changer they could add. But look closely at what comes right after him. A linebacker, a safety, an edge rusher, and an offensive tackle fill out the top five. This shows that while a flashy receiver might be the top want, the foundational pillars on defense and the offensive line are considered absolute essential needs. And notice this too. Two safeties, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren and A.J. Halsey, are ranked in the top 6. That tells you that analysts believe the back end of that secondary is a major area of concern that needs to be addressed with premium talent. This whole list, it's a blueprint for building a complete, balanced football team.
So when you boil it all down, it really comes to this. We've seen the logical, round-by-round strategy, and we've seen the ultimate impact wish list. But the draft is always unpredictable. That's why we love it so much. The one question that's left is which single player on this board has the power to not just improve the team in 2026, but to fundamentally alter the entire franchise's trajectory for the next 5 years. Is it the explosive offensive weapon, the quarterback of the defense, or the blindside protector? That is the multi-million-dollar decision that's facing Dan Morgan and the Panthers front office. What do you think? What is their biggest need? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Thanks for watching this explainer from NFL Nexus. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please give the video a like, and be sure to subscribe for more content just like this. And hey, if you're looking for something fun for the football fans in your family, young or old, help support the channel by purchasing one of our custom coloring books. They are perfect for children, grandchildren, and even adults. You can find them through the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on your screen right now. We'll see you next time.